Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
We caught up, 3-4 years ago, maybe?
It's been a while. For those of you that are listening right now, you can go back and you can hear Lenita's first interview. It's been a few years.
Well, it took Larry to get to Australia to reconnect us. Isn't that funny?
Well, it did. And those of you who've heard Larry Stevens, he was on a few episodes ago. Larry, he's with Crew, and Lenita's has her own coaching business, teen coaching business. That's what we're here to talk about, and about Lenita's life. Larry was there, and they're working on a movie. I wanted to make sure that they got together, two of my good friends and people that I've interviewed before, and I know both of them have incredible businesses and ministries. So I wanted you guys to meet each other, and y'all did. And it was a lot of work to get y'all there, and a lot of work for y'all to get to each other because y'all both have busy schedules.
Yeah, I really appreciate you thinking of me as well, and that was a great connection. So I'm super thankful for the introduction, and it's nice to. Even though I didn't know Larry prior to that meet, but trusting the judgment and how we're so similar in our values and our faith and what we do behind our jobs, like the deeper work and what we're actually trying to achieve. I was definitely in alignment with Larry, and so thank you again for that connection.
Yeah, and I thought you would be. You don't know until people meet, but. That was why I have no idea when Larry's going to be back. I have no idea when you're going to be through the United States again. So I wanted to make sure that you guys. So thank you so much for doing that. Did you jog over the bridge? Did you run? What did you do? You told me you had just finished the bridge. Which bridge is it in Sydney?
Well, I had a friend visiting a coaching colleague and a dear friend of mine. She actually lives in Arizona, so she was visiting Sydney and. So I was a tourist in my own city that day where we decided to walk over the Harbour Bridge, and that was incredible. That took about 3 hours. It's, of course, such a beautiful landmark in Australia. So that was my first time doing that. But it was really slow-paced, actually. It's not vigorous exercise at all, and you enjoy the scenery. It's the best way to see Sydney. And that was a fun day for me, climbing the Harbour Bridge, being a tourist in my own city.
Well, that's what happens when we're in our own cities, isn't it? We seldom get to see the sights that everybody else wants to come and see because you're busy doing business, doing work.
That's right. Take it for granted.
Living life. Well, I'm glad you got to see your own city finally.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. So it was good to see Larry and then jog off. I'm like, Larry, I've got to go and climb the bridge. He's like, that's insane, but have fun. Lots to talk about. I don't even remember the last time we spoke, but gosh, I've grown and business has grown. So just excited to catch up.
And I want you to just take off.
Yeah.
Just give us a short cap on your business because we did talk about that then. Tell us what we need to know about your business. And first of all, tell us how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I love this. Teen Coach Academy has really evolved over the last 3 to 4 years, I guess, give or take, since we last spoke. It's really beautiful to see how the vision is unfolding. In the beginning, you don't know how it's going to happen. You just have you have the faith and you have this vision. And I built a successful coaching business for teenagers, and people started approaching me at that time. I think that was kind of the early days with Teen Coach Academy picking off. And then so eventually teachers, coaches, youth speakers, youth ministers, more of them started to approach me through certain channels to help them build a coaching business for teenagers. So I guess fast track, 3-4 years later, still such early days when you think about it. But now what we do is we really just help educators and youth leaders build a coaching business, like make an additional impact and income with teen coaching. So a lot of our members are either still full-time working in schools and churches and community groups, and they're starting to get a taste of life coaching for their own classrooms and communities. And then there's another group that want to venture out full time and build a full time business, coaching teenagers and parents and speaking in schools. So we cater for both worlds. We have a beautiful combination and a blend of both levels of support. But that's where we are now in Teen Coach Academy. A lot of educators and coaches are approaching us now to help them start, scale, and sustain a six-figure business, which is a big deal in our market. Like, we would do this for free. I certainly did in the beginning anyway. So I just, helping our leaders monetize their pastoral gifts is such a blessing, especially from a faith-based standpoint too. A lot of our coaches are believers, and I love witnessing that as well, as a believer myself.
Let me emphasize to those youth workers listening, some of you are so used to being in poverty or having to just support yourselves to do these things. Churches and different people don't understand. But Lenita, you said something to me on that first interview. You said, listen, my mom, as a single mom, paid a lot of money for people to coach me in athletics and different things like that. Am I right about that?
Oh, yeah. You're so right. Mum was so resourceful, sacrificed a lot. If she didn't have the money, she had the courage to ask for help. And our grandparents have invested a lot in us as well. And, over the years, my aunties and uncles given, wherever applicable. So mum really got resourceful. And that's why I always say it's never about the resources. It's about the level of resourcefulness that parents come with. And my mum is a prime example. So definitely huge inspiration behind what I do and how I speak and work and support parents.
The reason I want to emphasize that is we did discipleship, and even in our discipleship groups, even though the book might cost, $8 or $10 or $15, we wanted to make sure even if students could not afford a lot, that they would pay $1. They'd pay something, because investment in whatever they receive seems to be important, even in Christian faith. If we don't invest in, it's like we don't take full advantage of.
Yeah, I love these conversations because, I guess we don't realize until we look back and connect the dots. And so where I am in my life now definitely comes down to a lot of factors, but a big factor was, my mother and planting the seed when I was a preteen and a teenager. So she was investing for where she wanted me to be in life, not based on where her bank account was. And I didn't get that as a kid until I, of course, grew up and look back and connect the dots. So that's why I always want to empower, whether they're parents or coaches or teachers that want to work in our world, is you're investing based on where you want to go and where you need to be, not based on where your bank account is. And that's been a big game changer in terms of identity and mindset shifts for our leaders who are investing in themselves. And it really helps the teenagers as well, future pace and evolve their identity and make investments and decisions based on their future, not on their past or where they currently are.
And see, that's really key. It's hard for some people to believe that they are worth the pay to do these things, or to wrap their mind. Their low self-image. There's also something called the imposter syndrome that we've covered on the podcast before. Many other people have covered that topic of where we feel like, oh, I'm just not worthy. I'm just not, if people only knew. But in reality, most of us, almost all of us, have the imposter syndrome.
I love that, Doug, because for me, and I've learned to reframe and help our coaches reframe that the imposter is just feedback that you're on the verge of another up level. And so, of course, naturally, it's uncomfortable when you question yourself, but it's validation that you're about to just step into that next level of your life, your career, your relationship, your income. So we love to take the imposter as, it's feedback. Let's explore, let's lean in and see how we can overcome that.
I like that. Let's lean in. Our very person usually wants to pull back.
Yeah, let's welcome the imposter. That's never going to, it's always going to creep. We always future pace ourselves and want that next level, whatever that might look like. And so the next level will come with a certain level of imposter. So it just doesn't surprise me anymore when parents, teenagers, coaches, when they have limitations or limiting beliefs. Like, that's what we love to do as coaches. We love to explore and break down the imposter. We're no longer surprised about the imposter. We congratulate our teenagers when they go through that as well.
So tell me, what are some of the latest things that you've learned concerning teen coaches and what has helped them the most through your teaching? What have you seen happening in the last, let's say, 6 months to a year?
Yeah, definitely the trend in the market. We are such a fast growing industry. Life coaching has been on the map for many years now. But what we're seeing is educators and schools are catching on, like they can start to understand the power of life coaching. So school teachers are starting to move. And instead of leaving the industry altogether, because the statistics are crazy, the first 5 years for a new teacher, they exit as fast as they entered. They're now looking to alternative career paths, which is coaching, life coaching. So we can see the trend is definitely on the up and it will continue to increase over the next 5 to 10 years. And then also identity. A lot of school teachers or youth ministers and sporting coaches, they've been working with kids for so long that they're now starting to learn how I can actually transfer my skill sets into life coaching. We definitely have certification trainings and support them through all the resources, but we're now starting to see how being a teacher is an advantage in life coaching. Being a sport coach is an advantage in life coaching. Being a youth minister in church is an advantage. So they're no longer coming in with, I'm not qualified enough story anymore. Through Teen Coach Academy and how we help, I guess, portray that or control that narrative, they can see that they have a leg up and we're going to help them leverage their skill sets with life coaching. So that's kind of what's happening and showing up for us. And definitely identity, owning their worth, owning what their program's worth, seeing that they can actually monetize, even though they don't need evidence, but TCA is pure evidence that they can actually make money doing this either as a part-time supplementary income or even just venture out full-time. Like the market has arrived now and they have more than enough evidence to prove that it can work for them no matter where they live in the world, demographic, etc. So it's very exciting what's happening with the market trends at the moment.
What do you think what's the main objection that you hear from people starting off in the coaching industry with you, your particular people? What are some of the things that have been the hardest, and what are some of the things that have been the most rewarding?
Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, the question, will this work for me? Am I qualified enough? Will parents buy? So we always want to bring it back to, the parents. Parents will do anything for their babies. And I can witness that as a daughter, from a daughter's perspective. We witness that in a lot of our parents. So we want to lean in with, there are families everywhere. You don't have to work with schools directly anymore. We certainly leverage that. But as long as the parent sees the value and you are confident in how you're portraying the value and you're sold on it itself, then it's inevitable. A parent will always invest in their baby. They just need to see the value in what they do. So yeah, that's kind of a common trend. Will parents buy? Will I be able to sell my program? I think also another challenge is, will this be a full-time thing? Like the limitations or the worrying about consistent revenue coming in. So a lot of them might be too scared to burn the boats. So we certainly don't encourage you to burn the boats right away. We want to have an incremental growth in revenue and cash flow. So you have a valid amount of money coming in to then make an educated decision on, do I burn the boats? Do I leave my full-time job? Do I stay part-time? We just want to make sure we go off the data and the revenue facts. But on the flip side, the most rewarding part from that, with having the courage to pursue this gig, is the fact that you can build a career and a lifestyle by design and create what freedom looks like for you and your families. We help our members build a coaching business that's built around their lifestyle, family, health, relationships. How do you actually want to live your life? And then we build a business that supports that, not the other way around, which is a common limitation in a lot of, whether that's church roles or school jobs. A lot of our teachers are burning out, and that's hence why they're leaving the system. It's just not designed to actually have a lifestyle. So that's one of the big upsides and rewards of creating your own freedom through teen coaching.
The financial thing is a big problem. There's just not enough money that it doesn't show the value of a teacher. It doesn't show the value of a coach. unless you go out on your own and do it this way. They're going to put you in a system. You were in a system for a while, even though it was, I believe you were at a Catholic school that you were teaching. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And, I think as well, we're not conditioned, well, for the most part, a lot of us are not conditioned to win financially in our market. Because if we were in it for the money, we probably would not become a school teacher in the first place or a youth minister. Our heart is for the kids. And so naturally, we're just not conditioned to make a lot of money. So when we transition out to build a coaching business, naturally there's limitations around, how much can I make and what's the financial ceiling? And I'm scared to charge high ticket for parents and teenagers. What will they say? Will they judge me on that? And so what's really allowed me to overcome that is, I guess a few things. One, it's amplified who I am. Like I give more back to my family. I donate way more to my church. I do so much more for our clients. It's just so much more easier to help other people. So I love what money can do for others. It's not just go buy fancy things and nice holidays. I just love what money can do for family, clients, and my church. And then also when it comes to that as well around, it's just so much more easier, as I mentioned, to help people when you have money and building the brand, giving back to people that are less fortunate. So even if you want to serve the disadvantage of whatever that might look like, you've got money and resources to do that. And I always think of Mother Teresa, the greatest venture capitalist in the world. It might not necessarily been her money, but she knew people who had money. So that's always helped me from a faith-based standpoint is money does help the world go round. And it's very important when it comes to building a business and helping families.
Mother Teresa keeps coming up here and there in my life. My understanding is she started off with 35 cents.
Wow.
And I think the priest, when she was going to go to India and was trying to get the blessing of the church, and they said, you don't need to be going down there. You don't even have the money. She says, I have 35 cents. And he said, how's that going to build a ministry? She said, well, on my own, it's not, but with God, everything is possible. And she went down. And recently, I was at a wedding. I was the pastor for some former students of mine. The guy who did the sound, I talked to him, and the story came up was he was a Protestant kid who ended up at a Catholic university, who ended up in the Vatican and ended up in a prayer circle with the Pope and Mother Teresa.
Oh my gosh. I guess that's also what excites me about, what we do and how we show up, and certainly how I show up as well around, you can serve your church, you can make money, you can have nice things. Like as long as you're not a slave to money and you put that on the pedestal, I think it's a beautiful reminder around, being a good person, really focusing on your relationship with Jesus at the core, like really getting to know him at an intimate level whilst also thriving in business. I think that's like an unspoken thing that is sprinkled throughout my brand, but it's a beautiful reminder in front of the teenagers. Like we're walking scripture, they're watching us, and they're probably going to learn a whole lot more with how we show up, especially from a faith-based standpoint too. And just reminding them, like you can be a really nice person and can thrive spiritually and financially at the same time and help others do the same. It's a beautiful way to really inspire people through that as well.
Well, and I think that you brought into that a very good self-image. I know you talked about struggling with that because of an absent father. And I know at one time, I remember following you on Instagram that you actually met up with your father. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. I did. I reconnected with Dad at that time. That was about, just over 20 years. And so definitely my own faith journey and working on myself and going through the healing phase really helped me, set that up and initiate that conversation. And of course, it's still not perfect and there's ups and downs when it comes to that. But at the end of the day, like having my spiritual father, like my relationship with Jesus has always reiterated the importance of having a fatherly figure, whether that's in person or spiritually, and the importance of a man in a woman's life, whatever that might look like, a dad, an uncle, an intimate partner, I don't wish that upon any person, especially our young females in the world. And a man's role in a woman's life is very important. So yeah, that's what happened. Reconnecting with my dad, and I guess closing a few loose ends, and just really proud. Like, forgiveness is for us. Like, forgiveness is for you. It's not necessarily just for the other person. And that was very healing in itself.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that I wasn't sure if you'd want to or not. And I knew it was important. You'd shared it publicly. And so that's why I wanted to ask you about it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for asking. I'm so open to sharing that side of my story. And I think that's really important. I think naturally when we help teenagers in the line of work that we do, there's always an underlying story or a need or a gap that we weren't, I guess, that maybe something we went through or didn't go through. And so naturally we are going to attract people to help them through that. So naturally, when I was coaching teenagers, especially in the very early stages, I was attracting a lot of families who were divorced parents, single mother households, single father households. It was naturally I was attracting that because that was my story. So yeah, always so open to speaking about all things life and business and faith. Yeah, I really love to explore all layers, I guess, to our world.
Well, you're doing that, and you're doing that through this podcast too, in this episode, and as well as what you do in your world and your teen coaching business. And your integrity is what I keep seeing, because I've watched on Instagram. You and I have talked that first time. I could hear your heart. And the incredible thing is most businesses don't last as long as yours is lasting. So that says something about your character and about your integrity. And tell us the hardest part. Was there a time that you wanted to just fold it up and say, okay, I've done enough. This is too hard now or something?
Yeah.
We all hit walls. So was there a wall that you hit?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I was, until today, for sure, Doug, there's multiple walls that happen daily. And it's always about, for me, the biggest lesson I learned was navigating through the lows as well as the highs and not attaching power to either. And so when I have very successful months in business, signing up clients or high cash months or any other milestone where people are really loving on you and raving about you, I've learned to not attach power to that because that can be taken away from you in a heartbeat. But as well as the lows, where when we do have low months with not many clients or sales, or it's just a tough month emotionally, I always learn, like, that's just feedback. What's exploring? What's the feedback here? Where can I learn? It's not a direct reflection of my worth. I know I'm very worthy, so I'm not going to say, I'm not worthy enough of that because I had a low month in sales. So I'm learning to not attach power to either or, but then also being a realist. Like, things are going to happen. Am I prepared for the cloudy moments? And just be, not negative or anything, just be a realist. Bad things happen in business, bad things happen in life. And I think the biggest thing is, are we prepared for that? If someone walks away, if a client cancels, if a parent complains about my work, do I have a system in place to actually handle that? And so I've just learned to trust myself so much more. And there's definitely a big room for improvement as I continue to grow. But really learn to just handle and trust myself. But that's also why I heavily invest in mentors. I definitely invest a whole lot more in coaching than I've ever before, as I grow and put more money into the business and myself. So I'm surrounded by incredible coaches and mentors. And I just know I'm very, very supported in that way, that when I fall, I'll have a great support network to help me navigate through. So I'm a fan. I'm a product of coaches. I love when my clients heavily invest in themselves, because it's just inevitable when you surround yourself with such a strong network of business leaders and individuals. Like, you just can't lose, and you really just play the timeline. So I guess to leave it with that too, Doug, is I play the decade game. I certainly don't put pressure on the 3-month game or the 12-month game. And so naturally now I can own that about myself as to why I'm still in business, is because I've played the decade game for as long as I can remember, when a lot of coaches are in and out within 90 days. And that's how you're going to really last in business, when you play the decade game.
That's very smart and very key phrase there. Look at the long term. Don't look at the short term. Short term is short.
Yeah, there's a saying, we underestimate what we can achieve. We overestimate what we can achieve in 12 months, but we underestimate what we can achieve in a decade. And so you look back and you stay in there. You're one of the first to enter the market, but importantly, you're one of the coaches who actually stay in the market from teen coaching or youth ministry, etc. Because most don't last, and that's what is sad, but it also excites me as we continue to build the market.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time and all the things that you've done. People who don't know you don't know that you are very athletic. One of the first things I saw before your first interview, but you were kickboxing in Bali or taking a course or something like that. You remember that, don't you?
Oh my gosh, I'm impressed you remember that too. Yes, I'm very athletic and I love to live a fit lifestyle. And yeah, I love that.
Remind them again how they can get in touch with you. Give it to us one more time there, Lenita.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we have a beautiful free training. It's introductory workshop and you can learn more about our world. It's teencoachacademy.com/start. It's amazing. It just helps you dial into our world right away. And then if you want to join our free Facebook community, it's called Thriving Teen Coaches. It's a free group. We give out a lot of amazing value every single day. So just plug in there if you're playing on Facebook and we can serve you no matter whether you're a beginner or a veteran in the space. We got you covered.
One final thing. Tell us the thing that you love to do that almost nobody knows about, but you just like sharing and like doing.
Oh, goodness me. The first thing that comes to mind is my coffee dates with my beautiful grandmother. I'm so lucky that I get to have such a close connection with her. And the way I build my lifestyle and my business, I'm allowed to be present and actually have time for her. So we go on coffee dates, Doug, very often, at least 3 to 4 times a week. And it's at this stage in my life, I'm just so thankful I get to do that with my beautiful grandmother who helped raise me as well too growing up. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. And for those of you who don't understand, she's 16 hours ahead of us in the United States and Australia, which I have to think in increments of 8 hours because today is my Tuesday and it is her Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Doug. God bless. So good to see you. Thank you for your time.
God bless, dear.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.